Buying a house can be an exciting event, but for some, it can be a dilemma, especially when the project is stalled with monetary losses. For these house buyers, they are faced with much anguish, and more often than not, there's little chance of reviving these projects. Hello guys, it's nice to see you again. Thanks for staying with us on Astro Awani. You're of course watching In Realty with me, Dino Omar, in this first segment, and then later on, as usual, you're going to be with that babe, Linawati Anand, and she's going to take you around to look at some pretty cool things. Now, when you are going to buy a property, of course, you should be doing the things that you should be doing. Look for the right developer, make sure the price is right, do your research, but sometimes things go awry and you can't really do about it. And one of the things that can go awry is that your project, the home, your dream home that you're buying gets abandoned. The entire project is shelved. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to somebody who's going to be able to shed some light on what the real situation with regards to abandoned projects are and what can be done to protect ourselves even before or after committing ourselves to such a property. So with me, I have the Honorary Secretary General of the National House Buyers Association, Mr. Chang Kim Loong. Mr. Chang, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's very scary, to think that young people, for example, someone like me, very young, wants to go out there and buy a property, and then suddenly the project gets shelved, and you're stuck with a mortgage that you can't do anything about. Yeah. So what really is the real deal with regards to abandoned projects?
I see. Well, despite all the supposedly protection that we have in the Housing Developers Act, 1966, they have been tweaked in turn on numerous occasions, all that, but yet there is no protection per se around there. People, the house buyers are always lumbered with problems of shoddy workmanship, defective product, no CFO, no strata title, but the worst of which paled in existence is the abandoned project. Abandonment has gone up to quite a drastic issue in such a way that even the government recognizes there is a problem over abandonment and we have got no solutions. There's no law as to how to revive an abandoned project. Okay, so much so that it has come to the attention of our the then Tan Sri Sidik. Tan Sri Sidik was the Ketua Serta Negara lah. Okay, he set up in 2009 a special task force for revive an abandoned project on that. He has worked quite tremendously. The particular task force has revived quite a lot of projects on that by inviting white knights to come in, solve issues like interest element. House buyers, when they are in the issue of abandoned project, they suffer having to pay rental for the property as well as not having a roof over their head. Now, the statistics at the Ministry of Housing may have been, downplayed. Developers always goes around saying that there's only about 1% of abandonment in the country. Why make the whole system so serious about it? It is serious. If you can look at the real statistics, it is actually about 10%. I would say between 9 to 10% is
that's from your own findings.
Not only our finding, we have got those statistics from the ministry themselves.
Right, I see.
What happened was the Ministry of Housing having their respective KPIs. All government ministry have their own KPIs. As far as the ministry are concerned, they have dissected abandoned project into 3 categories. Project Sakit, that is sick project. Project Lewat, another category Lewat. Ultimately, only it becomes abandoned. So there are a lot of projects that are already in the category of Sakit and Lewat already.
Right.
But somehow have been suppressed in such a way that only the minister can declare a project abandoned.
Right.
So these 2 categories are haunting us. Category of a delay and a sick project are haunting us. Ultimately, all this project is going to mature into abandonment already.
Right. Okay. So it's on its way to being abandoned. Okay.
And we have got those statistics because we are in the special task force and we know those statistics are real.
Okay. There are 2 ways to look at this right now, or rather 2 perspectives. Number one is from the developer's point of view, and of course the second one is the buyers, for the layman. Okay, let's look at the developer's point of view first. 3 categories, 2 of which leads to the ultimate, which is abandonment. So what can be done so that developers do not even fall in these first 2 categories before even falling even deeper into the ravine?
Now the ministry have got a mechanism, we call it Borang 7F. That Borang 7F is a report, it's a biannual report. We have now been made quarterly now, because of seriousness of abandoned cases. Those reports are required to be submitted by the developer to the Ministry of Housing to oversee and to diagnose whether a project is going to be delayed, sicked or abandoned. Every 6 months, or in now, a present one, it's about 4 months, these reports must be submitted to the government.
Okay.
Government have got a team of engineers, architects, as well as accountants to diagnose it, to see whether there's a possibility it can be sorted out within the time frame they're supposed to complete it. Like in terrace houses, they're supposed to complete within 24 months. Like in strata properties or apartments in condominium, they're supposed to complete within 36 months. So we have been stringently working with the government to make sure that none of this new project goes into this other category of Sakit and Lewat.
I see. So the government is actually keeping a close eye on this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, shifting the attention to the buyer's perspective, but before we go into the remedies, what are the main causes of a project being abandoned?
Most of the projects have been abandoned is because there have been a lot of over expenditure. Sometimes I find that projects don't have enough sales. The developer in any project whatsoever, the way that they got to even up will be at least a 40% sale. If don't reach the margin, a target of 40% sale, that is going to be a problematic project already.
Right, I see.
So sometimes we have got also cases whereby money is supposed to be parked with the foolproof housing developers account, have somehow found a way out. Either it's inflated construction bill whatsoever, in such a way that the minimum amount in the housing developers account must be 200,000, is no longer there. Most of these projects don't even have any money whatsoever within the housing project account itself. That is where we have been telling the government be more stringent over control over HDA account. Your HDA account is the nerve of a certain project. If money has been taken out carelessly from the HDA account, there is a problem over supervision and monitoring.
Right, I see. Okay, remedies. If you are stuck with an abandoned project, as a buyer, what can you do?
You got no remedies at all.
Oh dear.
No remedies at all. But however, what we have here is that to encourage buyers to galvanize themselves as a group, meaning that if you are alone as a victim, try to find more house buyers who are involved in the same project. Look around, maybe maybe you could go to the Ministry of Housing and tell the ministry, ask the ministry how many more people have lodged complaints over with them. Galvanize a group of house buyers, meaning coming up with a group of say 5, 20 people, subsequently submitting a memorandum to the government for intervention. The government has got a certain department who is in charge of complaints at the Ministry of Housing. So once a sufficient number, I would say between 5 to 20 people, submit a memorandum over to the government. Government and then subsequently call for a meeting between all vested parties. They will bring in the developers, they will bring in the bankers who are involved in the project, doing the bridging loan, all that, and the affected aggrieved house buyers. At least holistically, they could sit together and find solution what went wrong in a certain project, and how best to remedy it without having the price be increased further if some new white knight were to come in whatsoever.
Right, I see. Well, looking at what you've seen previously, what were some of the more creative steps that were taken and born out of these holistic meetings?
There are cases whereby the ministry having having made a viability study, looking at it that there's a possibility that there is a possibility of revival. The ministry have got their own funds, sufficient funds to rescue those projects.
Right, I see.
Ministry of Housing has got sufficient funds, and the priority is to rescue low-cost projects as well as medium-cost projects.
I see. Okay. Now, those aggrieved house buyers, it's better enough that they don't have a remedy and say, let's say they need some further assistance in trying to find out what they can do. Is that where they come to HBA? And
oh yes, of course, the governing authority is the Ministry of Housing themselves. It is the work of the Ministry of Housing. Anybody who has got complaint whatsoever, please go ahead, lodge a complaint with the Ministry of Housing, or visit them at the HQ in Putrajaya. But we have our own little bit of meet the public session. We have a meet the public session on every Saturday between 1 to 5 o'clock, whereby our volunteer lawyers, architect, engineers spend their Saturdays here to help people who get such problem, collect data as well as galvanize them together and help them to draft memorandums to the governments, all that. main purpose is to get them together and find a way for them. But some of our volunteers too were victims of an abandonment project. So they have seen the fate of it. They suffered the fate of abandonment. That's why they do a better job. They have a stronger passion.
It's starting to sound like an epidemic, but the message here is you are not alone now. Yeah? That's what we're trying to say.
You're not alone. We set up the organization because prior to us being even born, house buyer has got no recourse whatsoever. They don't know where to turn to, who to turn to.
Of course, yes. Okay. Well, that's all the time we have, Mr. Chang. Thank you so much for your time. And you know, please go on and continue being the white knight that you guys are.
Thank you very much.
That's it in the first segment. As usual, in the second and third segment, you're going to be with Lina Watiana. So stay with us on In Realty.